August 13th, 2019. Our first order of business will be public comment, and as always, we appreciate and welcome public comment at our meetings, and we ask that comments be limited to a maximum time of 3 minutes per individual. There'll be no discussion or action taken at this meeting, but they might be considered at a future meeting. Issues specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisors for appropriate consideration and review. Rude, slanderous, or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or interferes with the order of the meeting is not permitted. So we have 3 individuals signed up, and the 3 individuals, the first one is Rob Smith. Rob, if you'd like to come over there to the table, we'd appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. I can get in here without breaking everything. My name's Rob Smith. I'm the chairman of the Friendsville Forward Committee, which we're doing what we can to revitalize the town and promote, new growth in the town. And I'm also the chairman of the Friendsville Zoning Board of Appeals. What I'm here to talk about is Friendsville School and the importance of that school to the vitality of the town. I even just to mention that the Friendsville School could close sometime in the future is enough to squelch a real estate deal that may, get a new storefront going on Main Street in Friendsville, on Maple Street. So unless there's going to be some serious action taken on closing Friendsville School, we should be careful that no one, says anything. There was a big Facebook thing where people were traveling, messaging around that Friendsville School was as good as closed down. And so that was very unpositive to our efforts. Really, that's about all I have to say. I would like you all to know that the Friendsville Forward Committee has access to lots of contractors and workers and people with energy that could, work on the school. And we have tried to put a solar array on the school, but we're unable to do that. So we've donated a 10-panel solar array to the fire department. And it's to be mounted on the fire department sometime in the next few weeks, I believe. And there will be a monitor in the library at Friendsville School where the kids who can easily walk over to the fire department to see the solar panels on an outing can then go back to the library and see individual pictures of the panels and how they're actually producing when a cloud comes across the sky, or watch them seasonally as the sun angle in the sky increases or decreases. So it's a good educational opportunity, and it'll also produce, save a few $1,000s for the fire department in electrical bills over the years. There's a possibility that we could get another free 10-panel solar array down the road, and we'd like to see that put on Friendsville School if it can possibly be worked out in the future. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Louise Friend.
I'm Louise Friend, and I'm here by virtue of rumor that the board is contemplating closing the school, and I just want to express my desire that that not happen. I think strong communities are built by schools. I think the children who are in smaller schools have better educational opportunities, and I would fight to keep it open. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ma'am, were you speaking of Friendsville as well?
That's, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sorry, yes.
and that is on the topic she has here.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm limping. I'm recovering from a broken.
People always do.
Hugh Friend is our next one.
I'm Hugh Friend. I own a farm outside Friendsville, and I'm a retired school counselor. I'm here because I was asked to be here by people in Friendsville, and I'm kind of surprised that there aren't more of us here that are here. Kind of disappointed in that. The rumor is around town that you're contemplating closing the school again. I'd like to know, is that just a rumor or is that true? Having been involved in the school system over the years, I'd like some facts about the county. How many students do we have attending public school? If you could break that down by grade. How many are homeschooled? How many are going to private schools? What is the student population? I don't think we can speak intelligently till we have some facts and some information. It seems to me that we have too many school buildings now for the number of students. And I kind of wonder, why did we build the middle schools? I mean, we wouldn't be closing Friendsville and these elementary schools if we had those students back there that used to be there. Because we only had the elementary school at one time and the high school. And so I just wonder, do we have more buildings, and who did the study? I mean, being a school counselor, if you look down at kindergarten and first grade, you have a pretty good idea how many students you're going to have by the time they reach 12th grade 12 years later. Is it true that there was a study prepared? Did you use the study? What changes did you make based upon the study? What is the future of the school system in Garrett County? Do we have plans? What's down the road? Are we going to have more students in the future, less students, the same amount of students? Of course, we're concerned about Friendsville. It's in a flood zone. And every time you go to grow or do something, they come along and say, no, you can't build here, you can't build there. If you tear this building down, you can't build a building in its place. The school is in a flood zone. I remember when it was built, I spoke against building it there. But somehow it got built there. But if you're a private citizen, let me tell you, you're not going to build in a flood zone. So I would personally just like to have some details, some facts, some information. Where are we and where are we going? What's the student population in the future?
I'll speak to all three of you for just to go on the record, and I think I'll speak on behalf of the board. We've had no discussions as a board of closing Friendsville School or any school at this point, and there is a strategic facilities committee who is looking at just the types of questions you're asking as far as the future of the system and buildings and performing that. We've had no other studies that we've used. There were some prior studies that were done years ago, but none of those are influencing, they'll certainly influence, but they're not our primary source at any time, at this time, as we consider the future. I think as you look at all those details, will be available through this work of the committee, and that will be coming out in September. That there will be a full report that will have information, including projections and data, historical and future. So I think a lot of that will be there, but there has been no discussion of closures by the board.
Well, I'd just like to say one more thing. I did ask the superintendent, not this superintendent, but a past superintendent, how many students do we have homeschooled? How many are going to a private school, including my own grandchildren, no longer go to a public school? I'd like to know why those students are homeschooling. Why are they going to a private school? Do you know the numbers? And the thing that amazed me, he did not know how many were being homeschooled or how many were going to a private school. And I thought, are you checking on these boys and girls out there Maybe there's some that's not even going to school. I don't know. Do you know the numbers? You do know, right?
Yeah, we have that
Okay.
figure. I think you probably have more exact numbers, but yes, we know.
Maybe
and
that's
then-
something that could be made
yeah.
public. so people-
And it is. I think that was made public in the RISE material, and we do have that data where we can readily access it.
And if you leave your contact information, I can
We'll be glad to
certainly
get that for you.
send you some numbers.
Yes, I'd just like to be
Even
more
before
than
the report comes
informed
out.
than I am today. Really would.
Yeah, and I would encourage all of you to reach out to that Strategic Facilities Committee. Their meetings will be posted, and there's also an email, so send your thoughts there as well, because they'll be making some thoughts. Great. Yeah, so I strongly recommend that as well. SFC, just the letters SFC at garrettcountyschools.org.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, so we are going to move to executive session now to consider closed session items. As soon as I find the closed session summary, here it is. Too many papers. So tonight, we're going into closed session for two reasons. The first reason is to discuss, no one cares about this anyway, the appointment, evaluation, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. To conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to the negotiations. And topics include professional leave requests, certificated staffing recommendations, tenure staff consideration, organizational chart, and under the negotiations is salary parameters relating to a proposed MOU. We're considering the personnel topics because in closed session, because they include a discussion of specific employees, which is a confidential employee matter, and the collective bargaining items because that's the nature of the negotiations process. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the stated reasons? Motion by Tom, is there a second? Second by Charlotte, I heard first, I think. So Tom and Charlotte, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nay. We are in executive session. Remove A through E on that section, and I think that should be the only change I'm aware of. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as changed? Motion by Monica, is there a second? Second by Rodney. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Then we'll turn to the consent agenda, and it has the certificated recommendations and the tenure recommendations, status recommendations. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Woods, is there a second? Second by Mrs. Sebold. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The consent agenda is approved. We'll skip over the minutes for now and come back to those in the closed session summaries. Do you want to go ahead and do the announcements?
Sure. August 14th, tomorrow, executive session at the Green Turtle Restaurant at 12 o'clock. August 16th, we'll be Stop the Bus at Walmart from 8:30 to 4 p.m. And then we'll be organizing it here at Central Office from 4 to 5 p.m. August 20th is the first day back for teachers. August 22nd is the annual reunion meeting at the CARC at 8 a.m. August 26th, first day for students with a 3-hour early dismissal. September 2nd, Labor Day, schools will be closed.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the Swan Meadow School update. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, as with the other schools that we've done in the CIA report, I've always gone out to the schools and met with the principals and talked about the items that we were going to highlight. This is a little bit different with Swan Meadow because this fell in the summer months and the sub-pool wasn't working, and I didn't want to, bring her in on a specific day. So we just kind of collaborated over the internet, but quite frankly, I didn't have as much input on this one as I had with the other ones.
Is your mic on?
Let's begin with Swan Meadow School. So tonight we're going to try to be brief, I know you're running behind, of our student successes with our new county-wide implemented programs that we had last school year, and we felt those were successful, and highlight some of our school events and our wonderful support. One of the first tie-ins was PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention. And our school went with Falcons are responsible, respectful, and safe. So we implemented this school-wide. And this slide is where Pamela Lizard came from the Discovery Center, and she brought our school mascot, which is the American Falcon, as part of our PBIS system. And we recognized students for being responsible, respectful, and safe. We had 3 different colored boxes in each classroom, and we called it Feed the Falcon. And they put their tickets in there as they earned them. And then every week or every other week down at lunchtime, Mrs. Shaw would pull tickets, and they could earn, from each grade level, they could earn a prize. And then once a term, I would say we would have bigger prizes like gift cards and stuff that we got from the local eateries, and she would pass those out as well. And then each term Arlene had the students, her middle school students in computer science, they calculated all the tickets and did it in a graph, and we celebrated over the PA system, the class who got the most. It was a little competition, and then each student who got the most, and celebrated that way as well. And so they were recognized for earning the highest tickets. And then at the end of the year, the kids were so excited. In the fall, when we brought the Peregrine Falcon to Swan Meadow, we did an end of year. We tried to do a ski snowshoe or something, but we didn't have enough winter to do that this winter. So we did something at the end of the year. They were excited to go down to the Discovery Center, and they spent the day down there as an end of school year PBIS incentive.
All right. I really enjoyed teaching the computer science curriculum this year to the middle school students. We worked together. We did it hands-on, and as we learned about a program such as the Google Docs, which is like a word processing, the Google Sheets, which is like a spreadsheet, Google Drawings, Google Forms, but we tied all that into their curriculum and what they were doing in their classes, which was really well. For example, like the spreadsheet we did with the PBIS tickets. So the kids were great with that, and their final project was to create a slideshow similar to what you're seeing tonight, and they had to incorporate into the slideshow highlights from all of the Google programs they had learned this year, and I learned several features too from the kids, so that was really neat. They also worked with the Hour of Code throughout the year to learn basic programming, and the little thing lit up down there, that is Adafruit Circuit Playground, and Mr. Chuck helped me with that and teach the kids how to use that and program with that, and the kids had a lot of fun, and they just programmed different late shows and musical. They could program some of them to listen to for sounds and things, so it was a real neat experience. I enjoyed as well as the kids this year.
Okay, so another new program district-wide was Read 180 and Math 180, and we were quite proud of how our students achieved with that. So we implemented the Read 180 program for students needing reading support. I believe that was grades 4 through 8, and students were based on their participation in at least 10 sessions is how they were rated for what I'm going to tell you about. The rate of the Lexile growth was based on their beginning of the year. We had a reading inventory, which was your baseline, the Read 180. After we identified from the reading inventory who needed support, they went into the Read 180 program to get that support. And 4 of the 8 county students were Swan Meadow students, and there were 173 students enrolled countywide. So we were pretty happy about the success of that program and how well our kiddos did with that. And next will be Math 180.
Yeah, I was real pleased with the Math 180 program. It really helped me take those students, the older students, 5 through 8. We had a couple 5th graders that were struggling with those basic math foundations, and it allowed them to go back and revisit not just multiplication facts and basic fractions, but it was taking those basics, building those skills, and then the students had to apply those skills. They had an online option as well as a workbook that we worked through together. And the online option allowed them to pace at their own level and progress at their own level. And then the math workbook, we worked together and taught and practiced and reviewed with that. So, but we were real pleased with the kids' progress, with students' progress.
Arlene, how many kids chose online?
But they did both.
Oh, they
Yes,
did both.
they did both. So they there was an online option and a workbook. So the workbook, we did more of a teaching lesson from that, and then they did a few practice problems and then went into their online.
Okay.
And the online part, they were able to progress in at their own speed, which was great. So.
I know Ryan came out and was really pleased with the growth that our kids had made in the Math 180 as well. So we were happy. The students were very engaged in the read and the math. So it is an engaging program. If you can get middle school boys to read, then it's a good engaging program. So the next one is Maryland Day. We did have a representative, Shane Beachy. Laurie McMahon was his classroom teacher this year. And Shane has a love of history, and that's why she chose him. And we were excited that his parents and Mrs. McMahon went down and accompanied him at St. Mary's City. And then Shane came back. They had done some pictures and I think maybe a short video. Mm-hmm. And they presented it at lunchtime one day, so all the kids could see his experience down there. So we were quite happy to send him, and they were very happy to be a part of that. So.
Okay, another project at Swan Meadow is our produce tunnel that I think all of us have seen. And tasted. There you go. But the students really do work through spring, summer, and fall crops and a variety of produce. And I know when I first started thinking about this project, I thought, well, a lot of these kids already grow gardens. But it's amazing the number of percentage of students that either their families don't grow a garden or the kids don't help much in the garden. So it's been a real learning experience, and we definitely work. We've done things. Our spring lettuce crops have been real successful. We've sold that lettuce to the parents in Heidi's Cafe and even the school system. Peppers did a great, you can see there, bumper crop last year, so we sold a lot of them at the harvest sale and also made a lot of hot pepper jelly. Onions we grow, we use at the harvest sale for our tacos. Broccoli, we tried broccoli last fall, and actually it survived the winter in there. We were amazed. And we sold that to Heidi's for soup this spring. And our newest crop that we have in there now that we're excited to see how it works out is sweet potatoes. So a lot of the kids said they really like sweet potatoes, and I talked with Willie, and he said, well, in the tunnel, it should be hot enough up here to grow those. So we've got vines everywhere. So we're anxious to see what's underground and whether they're ready for harvest sale. So, but the kids, even last year, and all ages help with it. So I just have to share this real quick with you. Not being able to spray for bugs and things on the school property. Last fall, we had a lot of problems with worms on the broccoli plants. Well, I thought, well, I'm going to take the first and second K-1-2 class down there during homeroom, and we're going to put gloves on them, and they're going to squish bugs. Well, I'll tell you what, next morning they were down there counting how many they had squished and see who counted the most. And the next morning they're like, can we go back down and squish some more bugs and see how many we can find? And so you never know what's going to excite kids for learning, but so they enjoyed that. So.
Okay, so the next slide coming up
is annual Swan Meadow events. Spring sprucing, this was a new one for me coming to Swan Meadow. The community does get involved with this, so each spring we pick a date, a Thursday or Friday, and we try to do it as early in the spring as possible, but that's generally April, sometimes May. And we invite the parents come, and they bring their non-school age children and the students and staff, and go out and we clean up the schoolyard, pick up sticks, mulch, plant flowers. It's really a great community event and we had a good turnout and a great day to do it this past year. So that's one of our community things. Middle school woodworking. You'll see a picture there of the guy standing with the tall boards. These boards are, well, they'll look different, but they're going to be sold at the harvest sale this year. They made the
Cornhole.
Thank you. So they will be selling those at the harvest sale. And the girls, well, I guess the girls and boys, you'll see down at the bottom where they're eating lunch at the community center, and that's where the moms volunteer and help the kids make a craft and also prepare lunch. The students help prepare lunch with the moms that day, but they then made the corn bags, is that right? to use for the boards that they made. So, and they also made Jacob's ladders to sell at the harvest sale, and then for them to keep as well, so they have a memento from that year. They have something personal. So.
And of course, one of our biggest community involvements this year was Mrs. Gilbert's retirement celebration. And we had just a beautiful weather and a huge crowd. We estimate probably over 200 former and current students and families and community members, and several of you were able to join us.
Previous administrators and teachers in the campus.
It was a great turnout, and we had students and families come in from states all around us. We really did, and the community sang, kids sang, our school kids learned the school song that we hadn't sang for years, so that was exciting. Mrs. Fleming, who helped Mrs. Gilbert write the school song, came back and taught the kids, and they practiced it and sang it. And we did a few presentations, and of course it covered this. It's called finger foods, but we had about 6 tables full of food that night. So it was a wonderful evening. So.
And Mr. Blockfeld, he was out to join us that night.
Yep.
So, and people as far as Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia came back for that event. So I thought that was awesome. So the next community, thank you. Yeah, it was. Community events, of course, probably all of you at one time have been to the Christmas program, and that is definitely hosted parents and volunteers in the community come in and work with the kiddos, and then we have our Christmas program out at the community center, and then Miss Dallin helps with the music, and then parents also help, so they sing songs and celebrate the season. And then every spring we have our community picnic, and this year Miss Seabolt was out, and we do our end of year awards assembly, and then again former students, family members, grandparents, whatever, come to our end of year celebration of the picnic. And I asked how long it's been going on, and they didn't have as far as memories go back, they've been having that, so maybe it's as old as the harvest sale. I couldn't get a number, so but it's always well attended, and it's a great community event. So.
And speaking of the harvest sale, this year we'll be celebrating our 70th harvest sale, so we're real excited about that. And we're today, in fact, I got a call, or we put together a cookbook to celebrate the 70th harvest sale. It's got over 400 recipes, so I just got a call today. We got email that we're ready to proof it and get that back to them and have it ready to print, ready to sell for the harvest sale. So we're excited about that, and we're hoping we've got a lot of harvest sale recipes even in the cookbook, so that'll be really neat. And of course, like Mrs. Uphold said, our cornhole boards, and we're hoping to get the harvest sale logo into the 70th harvest sale logo into the cornhole boards and things. And I know all of you that have been there know it's great food and fellowship and a fun evening. So hopefully you can join us and put that date on your calendar.
And I think it's on the September calendar, for the school calendar this year.
Great.
So.
Good.
So I have to just put a shout out to Arlene. She was selected to go to California this fall for a 4-H, through the 4-H school. So she'll be recognized for that and get to participate in that. So I just wanted to put a shout out for all of her, because we have 4-H out at the school as well. So anyway, questions or comments?
Questions?
Do you have several cornhole boards
I guess you have at your harvest sale?
We have,
At least 2 games.
we made 3 sets. I'm not sure how many the other group made, so.
Looked like there were about
Yeah,
6, 5 or
yeah, I think we've got 5 or 6 sets, so,
Don't go with your logo.
yeah.
Have a logo.
Yeah, we're hoping to be able to laser that in. We're still working on those details.
Mr. Hooper has a question.
So,
What time is the harvest sale?
begins at 5 or 5:30.
food starts at 5:30.
Just bring your money.
But come early. Come early to get a seat and get, yeah.
And then the auction, I think, starts at 6:30.
6:30, yeah.
And do you accept donations?
Oh,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Are there guidelines?
We
Should
don't.
there be?
Well, yeah.
You're the attorney. You tell us.
We don't want yard sale stuff. We take new items and things like that. But most of it is local produce and that's been harvested or baked goods. But we also have had, like Fairfax has always donated a truckload of gravel, for the auction and things. So yes, items like that. We've had steel chainsaws before in the past. So, anything like that you think the community would bid on, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. She's good. I saw her go. Thank you. Just one second. We have a couple signed up, and then I can give it to you. I can give it to you to sign up as well. No problem at all. We welcome your comments. The Garrett County Board of Education is pleased to receive your comments and ideas from the public pertaining to our policies, procedures, and practices. We ask that comments be limited to a maximum time of 3 minutes per individual. There'll be no discussion or action taken at this meeting, but may be considered at a future meeting. Issues that are specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisors for appropriate consideration and review. Rude, slanderous, or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or that interferes with the order of the meeting is not permitted. So, our first person signed up is Remington Friend. And if you could come to the desk over here with the microphone, that would be great.
Just quickly, I'll say that I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with how the Board of Education works or who previous board members have been, but I'm trying to collect some information that I think is accurate, but of course, if I'm incorrect, you guys can correct it later as you address the questions and comments that I have. The first comment I have is that in 2012, Friendsville raised, from what I understand, nearly $2 million as a community by going to the state senate in order for their school to stay open. And I understand that the Board of Education almost immediately stripped nearly $200,000 of that budget off in order to improve Dennett Road, a school that had already been decided was going to be closed. I just asked today, are any of the current board members, were they on that board at that time in 2012?
As far as your questions, if you submit them, then we can get back to you with those instead of answering, but you can pose them all and go through, and then we can get all those answers together because we might not have all that answer and we'd have to discuss it. That's something we'd have to discuss amongst ourselves to figure out who was and not.
Okay. So. I guess a follow-up question to that was, why was money taken out of the funds that Friendsville had produced on their own to fix up a building that was already no longer going to be a school? A school that people said wasn't in good enough condition for students to be safely held in, yet is used for many purposes yet to this day, including, from what I understand, Head Start. Has the school board considered selling the Dennett Road building to raise capital and reduce costs for the Board of Education? That's a question that I have. Has any current board member read the consulting plan that the commissioners have told me cost nearly $1 million to produce, but was never implemented and remains on file at the courthouse today? Has anyone here ever read that plan at all? Okay. How much is being spent on the current consultant to develop a new plan for the strategic facilities plan? Why has a consultant been hired rather than the board members coming up with the plan themselves? I think this is why we elect the board. Why hasn't the old plan on file been used? For how many years is the current plan being developed going to cover? Since the board members have been elected, has student performance gone up or down as measured by Maryland standardized tests? Specifically, what I'm referring to is what I believe is known as PARC, P-A-R-R-C. What criteria is considered when mulling over a decision to close a school? Which school do each of you think is most likely to be closed given the criteria that you would set forth in such a situation? And those are all questions that I have for the board. I'll happily submit the questions, but I do want them to be publicly on record for the board.
Okay, thank you, and we will answer as we can. Some of those will probably be addressed at a later portion of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike Henderson.
Name's Mike Henderson. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this. I cannot address questions to the FTC, so I have to go through you to go to them. I don't understand how they're doing their rankings. Under music for Krellin, if I go to the board website, they're quite proud of the Wings of a Dove video, the steel drums, the concert, the guitar lessons, and yet he gets 15 red points. I didn't understand that. So somebody told me it was the building itself. Head Start and daycare is not part of the mission of the schools, and yet they get 15 points for that. They get 15 points for the bathrooms. Well, it says toilets. I don't understand what that means. It has never shown up at a board meeting. It has never shown up in Mr. Swift's reports. It has never shown up in a CIP, but all of a sudden here it is an issue. They have, Swan Meadows in particular has more ways to fail than they have rooms in the building. And the FTC has no explanation of where these numbers are coming from. And the committee itself seems to have a problem with Swan Meadows. They've singled out Swan Meadows in their comments. But when I look up Swan Meadows online, these reports are 2 to 3 years old because they're never up to date. Swan Meadows is listed as number 65 out of 325 elementary schools in Maryland. It's listed as 209 as the best public school in Maryland out of 871. The sites I'm looking at are College Simply, who gives them a rating of 28 in the state. Nietzsche gives them a rating of 65 as best in the state. Public School Review, they're telling me that the math proficiency at Swan Meadows is 60 to 79%, and the state average is 41%. It seems that they're exceptionally, it seems to be a superior school, and yet they get steady on the red lines. And I don't understand how they're doing their ratings. They are very concerned about Head Start. My personal experience is I ain't real fond of Head Start. I wouldn't do it except as a last resort. We're very concerned about behavior problems. Has anybody looked into a correlation between Head Start and behavior problems at a later date? I don't know if there's any studies in that area. Security. Swan Meadows gets 15 red points. My experience with that school is you ain't getting past the intercom if they don't know you. I don't understand where these ratings are coming from. And there's no explanation at any of their minutes or there's no way for me to find out, so I have to send it through you to tell me. And there's school comparison here. They're rating the school at 50% use. That's got to be listed on the old state ratings of 96%, because the SRC at the state board right now shows a state rated capacity of 69 with 50 students in there. If you do the math, it works out to like 75%. So if you can explain, or have the committee explain, how they are coming up with these ratings to be so unfavorable on one of the top rated schools in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris Hull, is it Hull? Okay, yeah.
All right, so as you know, my name's Chris Hall. I moved to Garrett County back in 2012. Myself, my wife Nicole, and my son Peyton. We've lived here since. We lived in Pleasant Valley for a few years, and we recently bought a place in July of 2018 in Friendsville, Maryland. And it's a great community. I think Remington kind of summed up a lot of the points I wanted to touch on. But, you know, there's been talk of school closures, Friendsville being on that list, and it doesn't sound like we get much feedback in this meeting from you all. So how do we go about getting the answers to our questions after this?
If you have specific questions, we will submit them. When we talk about the Strategic Facilities Committee report, which will be probably the next agenda item, we'll address some of those concerns most likely, but
I see.
Specific questions, we have to go, the easiest way is to submit them, and then you can ask them here, and then the superintendent will follow up with those questions.
I see. So you guys, any questions that's been brought up today will be discussed between the board members, or?
We might, potentially, depending on the nature of the question. Some questions, some were historical, what happened, and those types of things. That would be more of a question that she would research and provide the answer for. It just depends on the nature of the question. And depending on where we're at in the process, which we'll come to in a few minutes.
I see. Okay. So, I mean, I can start off by saying that Friendsville is a great community. It's a very involved community. I think everyone that lives there are very proud to live there. Everyone helps each other. It's a great community. I think the school's really involved, and the community's real involved in the school. And to talk about a school closure, it doesn't set right with those of us in Friendsville. And I think I can speak for most of us that have, anybody that has kids in that school, and probably those that have had kids or know people who have had kids in that school. And I can talk about the way it's supported, and I don't think that really means much. I know you guys are looking at financials and in every aspect of that. And then maybe closing the school, you think you might be able to save some money. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. I don't know a whole lot about this process yet, but I'm learning, and I'm going to further learn to get to where I need to be. But I just wanted to come today to let you guys know that we are thinking about it. It does set heavy on our hearts, and the decisions you guys make. It impacts more than just the school and the kids going there. It impacts the community, the economics, and maybe that's stuff you guys don't have to take into consideration. I'm not sure how all the financial aspects work. We're trying to save money in the school board and how to cut things off, and so hopefully you guys can figure out ways to be more efficient at saving money within the school system, so none of these smaller community schools have to be closed. I think that's about all I have. I just want to let you guys know that it's setting heavy on our hearts. I mean, we are aware of it. And I don't know what you guys have planned. I guess you can't answer that. I mean, I've heard talk of school closures of Swan Meadows and Friendsville, but hopefully we can get some answers, and everything that Remington had mentioned. Those are a lot of good questions that a lot of us would like answered. Especially, I've heard mention of a 5, 10, 15-year plan that hasn't really been put into place. I'm kind of curious about how that goes and where that's lined up and when we will have one. because it sounds like it can be very helpful in the financial planning within the school system, so. But that's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, anyone else that would like to make public comment? Okay. We will move to the strategic facilities planning update, and I'll make a few comments that will probably address some of your questions, but not all of your questions, but we'll get some of them addressed. So you asked where we are at. So the plan, in January of this year, we made the decision to move forward with the strategic facilities plan with a consultant who's Dr. David Lever, who was former head of the Maryland Interagency Commission on school construction. So he has been facilitating that process. There was a committee that was appointed of individuals from the community, business leaders, educators, a variety of individuals on that. They have been meeting since around April, give or take a few there. March. Yeah, and they did have public hearings early on in the process to get community feedback in May. So there was, at the beginning of the process, there was community feedback. They are currently in the process of developing a plan. The charge was a 5-year plan with also looking out to give us maybe for up to 10 years as well, but specific capital projects for 5 with a longer range idea too, because we don't want to, as some people pointed out, work on a school and then have something else come up and changes the use of the facility. So all of that was included in that charge. So let me put to rest some rumors. First of all, this board has not discussed the closure of any school. We have not had any discussion at all of school closures, and no individual schools that have been mentioned to this board. This committee was charged with exploring whatever options they felt they needed to explore. We don't know what those recommendations will be. Those recommendations will be coming out in our preliminary form, I think early September. And when those come out in the preliminary form, there will then be public hearings again. There'll be one in the north, one in the south, and one at the college, where community feedback will be vital to those. So we want to hear all of the comments, all the questions, all of those kind of things in that process. So when that happens, that will be, I think it's the week of like the 17th or something in September. You have those dates? 17th, 18th, and 19th. So when those come out, this is what the board was very clear. We want this to be a community engaged process. We want it to be something that the community can get behind, and that's why we're having those public hearings before the final recommendations are made. So those will be preliminary recommendations. It'll come to the public. You'll have a chance to comment on them, and then they will be finalized by the committee and should come to this board in November at our regular board meeting is the plan at this point. We don't have any input at this point until we see the recommendations, and then we can make some feedback if we desire to, but we won't actually receive the report until November will be when we receive a final report. We're going to read an update here in a moment from our facilitator, Dr. Lever. One of the questions that was asked that I could address was, what happens if a school is recommended for closure? Does that mean automatically, because we would approve a plan that has that in there, that school is going to close right away? No, there's a process that we have to go through that is in COMAR, and it includes things like community impact as well as the financial impact, student trends, all that kind of stuff. So it's not just financial considerations. We and this board is very committed to community schools, and so I would say if that decision would be made, there would have to be a lot of convincing and a lot of data that shows that that's really the best move. So I know that's the feeling of this board. But if those things happen, there is a process that it would have to go through. Okay. Now we'll give the board a chance. Is there anything you want to say before I read this? I don't know if there's anything. Yeah.
Just give it a little bit of information. When they kept talking about the report, a study that was done years ago, I believe that was probably 2011, 2012. And that was under a different superintendent, the different county commissioners, and mostly different elected board. And there was something, but what I remember from it, it had numerous years it was closed Crumlin, because I believe it was Swan Meadow, and Friendsville. So there's a lot of different board, different superintendent. It was something that had been done. I know what you're in reference to. I think it was in 2009 and 2012. But we repeatedly heard people say, "What about this report?" But that was.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Monica. Thanks for bringing that up. Because that report, if we would have implemented those, would have drastically changed the nature of the school system and community schools. And the board at that time, nor this, is there.
You know, unfortunately, put anything you want on social media, and there'll be a certain amount of people who's going to believe all of that. So
You can even use people's names.
sure, you can put anything you want out there, but Dr. Paul's right. We haven't even had we've not discussed any closures, and we are all very committed to community schools. Those two things, I can assure you, are facts.
And I believe that book was done after they had closed Senate Road, that report.
Yes, that was after
That
Kids Small
was-
closed, yeah.
Yes.
That was recommending closures and redistricting and some other things.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, as far as that report, and I'll answer a little bit on Dennett Road too. Part of what happened with Dennett Road after that closure was that there was debt on that building. I was not on the board at that time, but that debt was discovered after the closure, and because of that debt, we would have had to repay that. And even if we would, right now it is housing more than just our IT. It houses IT
Some of the county
for
IT as well.
helping with that, and houses several of our other offices and maintenance, and also some storage and other things. So it is a multi-purpose building. The board at that time, I had just come on the board in that time, and so I'll be frank, we were not happy that we found this out at that moment, but we did, but we made the best of what we could do with the building based on that, and that's basically where it is, and so that is where.
We as a board, there was a question about selling. Why did we sell the building? Anything that we vacate, that we believe has to be, goes back to the commissioners. So whatever buildings we vacate, we get nothing back from them. They go to the commissioners and then they do whatever they're going to do with that. But there was the bill that was owed on it, and as long as you have children in that building, you can still count it. The state pays the bill. But once the kids come out, you don't have kids in the building. So Head Start state, was looking for a place. So they went in that building, and by having children there, the state continued to pay the debt off. Otherwise, the debt would have gone to the county, and the county would have owed that. So that was something that we got, and I was on the board at that time, and that is something that we found out after the fact, which is why all at once Dennett Road became a facility that was being used again. I think it's real important that you go to the September meetings and do have input. I went to the earlier meetings that public made comments at and found it very helpful. And I think that the September meetings, hopefully, the public will take advantage of those opportunities. And also the minutes from the facilities meetings, those are also open meetings because it's the board's,
Committee.
our committee, and any committee that we have is open to the public. So, and those are meeting dates and times are put on our website, on the Board of Ed website. So there's access to those meetings and also to the hearings that will be late, coming in September. So thank you, for coming, and being involved is something that you can do in several ways. So appreciate that.
We also encourage you to email, you always can email the board, but SCF, that's the letters, SFC, I got it right, Stephen, Frank, Charlie, SFC, if you, Strategic Facilities Committee at GarrettCountySchools.org. I encourage you to submit questions, information, thoughts, opinions there too, and they'll take those. I know that they read all those and take those into consideration as well. that's all there. I'll read the report, and then if the board has any further questions, and I know Mrs. Baker wanted to say something as well. So this is our report, which is our fourth one that we've received from Dr. Lever. Strategic Facilities Committee met on July 10th, 2019. The majority of members and Dr. Lever participated via teleconference, while some members were in attendance at the Board of Education room in Oakland. Approvals of the minutes from the previous meetings of June 19 were deferred to the Planning Options Workshop at the end of July to allow time for the committee members to review the documents. The committee heard reports from each of the 4 research committees. The Grade Band Configuration Committee noted that while the research is inconclusive as to whether any specific grade configuration results in improved academic achievement, there is ample evidence that focusing on the educational experience of students, including especially their relationships with teachers and other adults, is of primary importance. The Alternative Education Committee reported that the survey of teachers indicates that there's a rapidly growing problem related to disruptive behaviors and that teachers do not have the training needed to address the new challenges they face. Research indicates that restorative rather than punitive measures are most effective in helping students with trauma-based issues. The Single High School CTE subcommittee noted that the time frame for implementing a single high school may be on the order of a decade. Despite this long time frame, the SFC decided that if the subcommittee determines that there are advantages to such a project, then recommendations to the board will allow the process of planning to begin. The Community School Subcommittee is developing recommendations to create more space in overcapacity schools and to preserve the community schools. Subject of Swan Meadow School presents unique challenges. The school lacks certain middle school programs, notably foreign language and technology education, while it does offer computer science. Because of the way that multi-grade classes are structured and scheduled in the school, there are concerns regarding state requirements for 8th grade testing. In a combination with the facility inadequacies that are discussed below, Swan Meadow remains a challenging topic for the committee. Dr. Lever presented an update of the results of the Planning Objectives and Planning Options workshops of June 18th and 20th. He reminded the committee of the goals that had been adopted at the second workshop and suggested that the goals be expanded to include the efficiency of operations. Educational excellence and equity have emerged continually as guiding principles in the committee's decisions. The methodology adopted by the SFC at the workshops provides a ready analysis of which school facilities have educational deficiencies and which categories of educational deficiency are most prominent. Crellin Elementary and Swan Meadow have noticeably more deficiencies than other schools. Among categories, security is a primary concern, along with parking lots, bus loops, and several categories related to the community, before and after school space, community space, and daycare. Dr. Lever presented a summary of the planning options that emerged from the workshops of June 20th. To simplify the conceptual framework, the options were presented under 3 large categories: system-wide options, options for schools in the South, and options for schools in the North. Dr. Lever stressed that at this time, all options should be discussed with the goal of eliminating options that are infeasible and focusing attention on the options that will maximize the goals established by the SFC. Preliminary narratives outlining the advantages and disadvantages of all the options and cost worksheets for a number of them were made available to the committee members to assist their preparation for a workshop at the end of July. And that was held on July 29th, and I'll read that. The SFC conducted a planning options workshop on July 29th at the board office in Oakland. Following approval of the minutes from the meetings of late June and early July and brief reports on the status of each of the research committees, Dr. Lever summarized the conclusions reached in previous discussions of the committee. Combining the educational adequacy information developed in the June workshops with other data on the age of facilities, deferred maintenance, and classroom size leads to the conclusion that there is considerable inequity in the condition of the schools in the southern part of the county compared to those in the north. The committee then turned to a full discussion of the planning options. The committee operates under an overarching view that facility concerns of Garrett County Public Schools are multiple and varied, and that no single issue tends to dominate the others. Consequently, a balanced approach is most likely to emerge from the committee's work. Certain planning options were eliminated as being infeasible or undesirable. As an example, an option that would provide small incremental improvements across the entire school system was eliminated because it would not further the committee's goals in a significant way or help to address the inequities in the school system. Similarly, options for reducing the number of facilities by forming single elementary schools and middle high schools or K-8 schools were eliminated because of their impact on communities and the disparities in instructional programs that might emerge between different parts of the county. The discussion led to the following general ideas to be developed in more detail and brought back to the committee in order to be discussed, prioritized, and fully elaborated. These include improving the security of schools is of paramount importance. Redistricting schools should be explored as the least costly method to address overcrowding in the southern elementary schools, to be followed by modest grade band reconfiguration to take advantage of available space, and then by capital projects to increase capacity. There is available capacity at Southern High School that could help solve the overcrowding issues in the southern elementary schools. The need to expand early childhood programs like Head Start to address at an early stage the increase in the incidence and intensity of disruptive behaviors have facility dimensions that should be addressed by the committee. The educational adequacy findings from the previous workshop call particular attention to the conditions at 2 schools, Crellin and Swan Meadow. In addition, the open space classrooms at several schools should be addressed. Southern Middle School presents an educationally deficient environment that cannot be avoided. In combination with the also unavoidable condition of the roof at Broadford Elementary School, an expensive project, the committee will consider a number of options to incorporate the elementary school as a separate program within a renovated and expanded middle school facility. Recognizing that improvements will be needed in many facility areas, the committee will develop tiers of projects that reflect its priorities and will consider the financial resources needed to carry them out. Depending on the magnitude of the cost, closures of facility could be considered among the possible sources to provide needed capital funding. The committee will develop and prioritize its detailed planning recommendations with a primary view to the educational and operational necessity for the improvements and an understanding that a well-conceived plan will receive a level of financial support from the county government. The session of July 29th ended with a charge to the facilitator to develop and draft a capital plan for the consideration of the committee based on the principles outlined above. This draft is underway and will be revealed by the committee at a meeting later in August. Has that meeting been scheduled yet? Okay. So look for that on the website soon for that. So that's the report that the committee gave us, and that's what we have from the committee at this point. Are there any questions, comments from the board?
I need to make a clarification.
Yes.
I want to clarify for the folks here this evening and for anybody that is streaming us online. As we work through the requirements for the middle school grades, particularly the 8th grade, we have had many discussions about how we can best meet the needs of those students at Swan Meadow. And so I wanted to address the paragraph that stated that that was a challenge for middle school students. Mrs. Uphold is here this evening. We had a meeting earlier last week, and we have addressed not only we had some issues with computer science, which you saw this evening that Mrs. Lance is teaching computer science, and well, I'm sure, but we also have worked out a plan for foreign language and for health, which were 2 areas that we needed to make sure were being taught with fidelity at the 8th grade, and so we have addressed that already. So that should not be an issue moving forward. It was not adding additional staff. Mrs. Uphold has been very creative in her way of making sure that those needs are met with existing staff. So it didn't add to any cost figures for the committee. But we are totally teaching all of the requirements for 8th grade. So that's been corrected. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And some of these things, I mean, facilities come into play as we were discussing the academic issues, and some of those can be addressed other ways as we go through the process. So. Anything else on that? Okay. Thank you. We are going to move backwards a little bit. Let's go to the approval of the minutes, because that's where we left off at the top. And then we'll just work our way down. So you have the minutes before you. Are there any additions or corrections?
Number 8, continuing business, versus A, strategic planning update. I know at the very beginning we said that Dr. Lieber would invite a conference call. Can we also have that put in there too?
That's fine.
So if you didn't see the beginning, you could just do a conference call.
Yeah.
And then I would like to have added, talk about committee's recommendations. So we got things told, and it's in the, what you saw about the minutes from before. They are composed of 4 research committees. We have that put on there too. They went into 4 different groups.
That's fine. Couple things. I was out of town last weekend, so I didn't get all my changes in. But under 2E, you got those updated?
I actually printed them for
Okay.
everybody. Should have a copy.
So they're in your folder.
Yeah.
So there was a couple under. So 2E, we just needed a motion to approve the consent agenda because there wasn't, last month, there wasn't an amendment to it. And then the only other one that was major was the time was AM and PM. I changed those. And then the 8B, I actually voted on that one, nay. So that had to be on there. Any other additions or corrections? Motion to approve as amended. So moved. Motion by Mr. Woods, is there a second? Second by Monica. Mrs. Rinker. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. They are, any opposed? They are approved. Closed session summaries.
Okay, thank you. The Board of Education met in executive session on Tuesday, July 9th, 2019 at Central Office in the boardroom at 4:03 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items. Review executive session minutes, personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1, collective bargaining negotiation topics pursuant to 3-305B9, legal topics pursuant to 3-305B7, and administrative function topics. Tom Woods made a motion to close the meeting, and this was seconded by Monica Rinker. Thereafter, the board unanimously voted to close the session with a yay vote from Rodney Glotfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. The topics discussed in the closed session included the following. The board reviewed the executive session minutes from the June 11th, 2019 meeting. Tom Woods made a motion to accept the minutes, and Charlotte Siebold seconded the motion. The board unanimously voted to approve the motion with the yay vote from Rodney Glotfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. Personnel pursuant to 3-305B1, professional leave requests. Mrs. Karen DeVore, Executive Director of Curriculum, Instruction, Administration, presented 2 professional leave requests to the board for their approval. Tom Woods made a motion to approve the Project Lead the Way training, Human Body Systems professional leave request, and Rodney Glotfelty seconded the motion. The board unanimously voted to approve the motion with a yay vote from Rodney Glotfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. Rodney Glotfelty made a motion to approve the Advanced Governmental Accounting professional leave request, and Tom Woods seconded the motion. The board unanimously voted to approve the motion with a yay vote from Rodney Glotfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. Certificated staffing. Dr. Jane Wildison, Director of Human Resources, requested the board approve certificated staffing recommendations. Dr. Wildison also shared the non-certificated employees recently approved by the superintendent. The board took this matter into consideration and voted on the certificated recommendations during the public session. Dr. Wildison provided an update on an employee investigation. The board considered this information but took no action on the item. Organizational chart. Mrs. Baker discussed personnel changes to the organizational chart. The board requested further personnel changes and for the matter to be brought back at a subsequent meeting. The board superintendent evaluation. The board discussed the superintendent evaluation. Negotiation pursuant to 3-305B9. Dr. Wildison and Mrs. Schweitzer provided a draft MOU relating to the distribution of funds for the teacher salary enhancement grant. The board reviewed the proposed MOU. Tom Woods made a motion to change the terms of the MOU. Rodney Glotfelty seconded the motion. The board unanimously voted to approve the motion with a yay vote from Rodney Glotfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. Legal topics pursuant to 3-305B7, update on pending litigation. Mr. Brandon Hoover, board attorney, provided an update on pending lawsuit that has been filed against a bus driver. Update on breach of contract. Mr. Hoover provided an update on a possible breach of contract. Administrative function. Mrs. Barbara Baker, superintendent, discussed an administrative function topic with the board. The board took this matter into consideration but took no action. The board recessed the meeting at 6:16 p.m. to go back into public session. The board returned to executive session at 9:09 p.m. Tom Woods made a motion to adjourn the executive session, and Monica Rinker seconded the motion. The board unanimously approved adjourning the executive session at 10:11 p.m. with a yay vote from Rodney Glotfelty, Charlotte Siebold, Monica Rinker, and Tom Woods. Thank you.
All right, we will move down to policies and procedures, and we just have update on the procedure that was revised, IHOA, leaving school for curricular, co-curricular, or extracurricular events.
I crossed all of them off. This is up for vote this evening. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, this is the.
This is just, it's a procedure.
Well, it seems like I've seen this a lot of times.
Policy committee.
Yeah, we did review it a couple of times prior to this. You can see the changes listed in red. On the procedures, we tried to align the topics with our new format, just adding purpose. Then we added the definitions, put in administrative procedures. And then we changed some on 9. We changed just to make it easier to read the format of the lowercase ABC, just to make it follow the correct format. In the table, we changed the word definition to activity. The important point on D2 is field trip transportation for a large group of students must utilize a Garrett County Public School contracted bus or charter bus. Vehicles other than a school bus are permitted. Small groups of students under GCPS procedure EEBAA. Any questions about this?
Just for clarification, that that comes from state superintendent to make the changes about
Right, and just, right, the superintendent had requested to have a waiver so that we could use private vehicles, and was denied. Was denied. Transporting students in leased vehicles. So we had to make that change. And that are used constantly,
Any questions on that one? That's informational.
Been working on, as far as pickups, coming back from the
that we had questioned prior, yes.
Okay.
So we discussed this at the last meeting. Is this just information from this meeting?
I think that
We made changes.
there were changes between the last two, so any changes just have to come before.
Changes have to come back and we have to.
And it's just because there were changes based on the discussion at last meeting.
That's what it means.
Yeah. And it was mostly related to the transportation side.
Yes, it was.
Okay. We will move on then to the MOU for Garrett College Performing Arts Center. So, Ms. Baker, do you want to
Yes, I think that's.
finish that?
So you have before you several times revised memorandum of understanding, an MOU with Garrett College regarding the proposed performing arts center that will hopefully be built at the college campus. we want to partner with the college and host a variety of events for the school system at the Performing Arts Center. We think it would be a very good addition to the county and hopefully be used a lot for our band, chorus, theater programs and other programs as well. And this MOU outlines in-kind contributions and benefits to both entities based on those contributions, how often we will meet, and then it also includes an equipment, a sound, lighting, and equipment assistant that the board, it would be an employee of the college, but we would have an annual payment to the college to support that position in exchange for being able to use the Performing Arts Center at least 10 times throughout the school year. And that includes all practices, all performances, those kinds of things. So it is up for action this evening. Again, we had another meeting with Dr. Midcap in which the two representatives that the board asked to go to the meeting with Mr. Woods and Mr. Glotfelty. I was in the meeting and several people from the Garrett College Board of Trustees met with us. And so I present this evening for action for your approval.
Okay, is there a motion to bring this up for discussion?
So moved.
Motion by Tom. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Second by Rodney. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the Performing Arts Center Memorandum of Understanding codicil between Garrett College and Garrett County Board of Education. Discussion. Yeah, I'll go to the student board member first, and then I'll go to Charlotte.
So I just wanted to ask, would this be for the next year's budget, and do we have an idea of what we would possibly be using this money from? What would be taken away in exchange for this funding? I think it's a good program, and it's something that would benefit our arts. I was just wondering if we had an idea of where the money would come from.
It is not this coming year. The period runs from beginning July 1st of 2021. And because we have a couple of years to plan, we haven't looked at an area that it would come from necessarily, but certainly that would be part of the annual budget process.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, a couple of comments that I have are that I believe in working together, and I appreciate the partnership that we do have with the college and the county commissioners also. My concern is that we're signing an MOU for 10 years. At this point, that's $30,000 annually, which would be $300,000 over the 10 years. Also, if it's felt, and this is for a part-time sound person, I have problems with how that will be worked between all of the other partners that are involved in this. Also, how often we've not actually, we feel like the band's going to be using it, we feel like the theater folks are going to be using it, but it does mean that for sets and props and different things like that, they will have to be transported to the college. Also, any children or students that are involved, we will have to do for practices and all of that. So my concern is that we really haven't looked at the use, how much we are going to use it, and we're signing up for a 10-year contract or MOU. Also, it can also, if other parts of the partnership feel that the person should be full-time instead of part-time, then it will come back to the three entities that are involved and discussed how that will be split also, so that costs could also go up. So I personally would like to have seen us do more as far as finding out, if we could pay for it by use when we use it, and how often, the facility would actually benefit the school system. Thank you.
I had a few comments too, and some of my notes were things that Ms. Seabold had said. A question I had too was, is something that could be paid for by youth, not just for, 10 times in the year's frame. Also, without knowing the results of what the strategic plan is going to be presented to us, different things that we have that needs our maintenance in our buildings, that's a concern at this time also. And she had said the transportation, yes, it's closer for Northern, but it's a little bit of distance for students at the southern end of the county. And I think it would have been good too to hear the people that will actually get to be able to, would utilize it, their thoughts on this also, like how often they would use it, does it fit in their schedule, just the whole thing. Because for the ones we say at southern in the county, they're gonna have to take away more time to go there for transportation. Like you're gonna have to allow transportation to there, transportation back, as if they were doing it during the school time, during their scheduled class. You have, I can't remember if it's 45 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. The bell rings, you go to your class, and you come back. So in different things, there's a lot of more discussions I think that could be held, considering too that it is for a 10-year contract. I mean, I think it's a good thing, a good collaboration, but when there's money that's involved in it, there's always a lot of questions I feel that need to be asked. Thank you.
A community performing arts center has been a dream for a lot of people in this county for many, many years. And I really would hate to see the school system say, we don't want to be a part of it. We'll just pay as we go, because we can't lock in that 10-week usage. If we do it that way, they could just say we don't have the ability to let you use that facility. I know I was band booster president at Northern for 4 years. I know how inadequate the facilities are at the high schools for performing, doing concerts, doing plays, doing chorus. I look at it as a cost avoidance thing. If you have to renovate those type facilities to actually make them acoustically sound and actually put the lighting in there you need for stage performances and that type thing, it's going to be far more than what you'd spend on on this $30,000 a year for 10 years. So that's something I think important for us to consider. Finally, I just think it's a really wonderful opportunity for the students at Garrett County to have a professional performing arts theater to actually do their performances in, to have the audience come and have comfortable seats, not have everybody on the same level looking over everything, not having perfect acoustics and perfect lighting. And I really think the school system should be a partner with the county, CLAF, the college in this endeavor. And I think $30,000 is not a whole lot to pay to assure that. And I think the other thing, we have preference, the college is very good to us about letting us use the facility for graduation, for an arts fair. It's a different part of the facility, but on the other hand, they don't charge us for that. And so we really want to continue that good working relationship with Garrett College and the county commissioners and the community at large. So I'm definitely in favor of this. I think it's a partnership. I think we talked about when we were at the meeting. We really wanted it to be a partnership and not just we're going to be a customer of the college. So that's my thinking.
Any further discussion or questions?
Currently, we do, at the Clark, we can swim kindergartners, correct? We do that now with them, and then like 5th grade has career days at college. So there's a few things that we do.
College and Me.
College and Me, yes. That we partnership with them. We don't have, I don't believe, it's maybe a little bit different than this, but we do partner back and forth, and we use their facilities and, yeah.
Well, I would piggyback on that, both of you, by saying Dr. Midcap was, I think, very generous in his intentions of saying to us, it says 10 weeks, but if it's available, I think we'll get it when we need it. If it's available and hasn't been taken by somebody else. And I realize it's a lot of money to commit. It is a lot of money to commit, but I do think it's important for us to try to give our students an opportunity to get into a state-of-the-art place to do their things. And we're never going to be able to afford to do that, as you said. It's just not going to happen. This is one way we can make it happen. But I was most impressed with their wanting us to be their partner, not only the money, but to be a partner in their college to help us when we needed help to provide things. And goodness knows they've really done a lot of things to help us over the past few years. A lot of things that they could have easily charged us a lot of money for if they wanted to. So it's a good partnership.
I just want to add one thing, and that is that there's another committee on the design and specifications, and we do have teachers, our theater teachers, we do have current teachers on that committee to design it so that it can be, so that we can have some input from the school system on, so it does end up as a state-of-the-art facility for high school kids or any kids.
Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Sounded like a tie. I will vote in favor of the motion, so it is approved 3-2.
Thank you.
Organizational chart. That's our next thing.
Yes, that's still me.
We'll move there.
All right, thank you. The board has before them the revision to the organizational chart. It is revised periodically, various years, depending on certain positions and management of each department. You'll see it's divided basically into two distinct sectors, the first being the instructional side. And on that side, there are several changes, not so much in who reports to whom, but some two additional positions, and that is the coordinator of mental health, that will be a direct report to Mrs. DeVore, and the coordinator of special programs, which will also be a direct report to Mrs. DeVore. That coordinator of special programs, I think there was some confusion a little bit on that position and how it is paid. It is actually paid for by a significant portion of it with Kerwin funds that can pay for 504, pay for gifted and talented, and so that person is paid from special education funding in that role, even though it is not exclusively a special education position. And then on the administrative side, there's one new position, and that is the junior system administrator. There's no change there except for the fact that that person would report to Mr. Gank, our director. We do have some change in roles and responsibilities. Director of Maintenance, Operations, Facility, and Transportation, with 3 people, well, actually 4 people reporting to him, and then our Supervisor of Safety and Security and Capital Projects, direct report to me, and then of course all the other directors as well. So it is up for action this evening. It's gone through several revisions at the request of the board, and so this is for action this evening with the final revisions.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the organizational chart? Motion by Rodney, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
3-1. What's that? That was, that's good.
Thank you.
It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Student board member update.
So this month, GCASC met last Wednesday, August 7th, to plan and discuss the upcoming events for the year. We decided that in order to increase involvement throughout all 4 councils, which is our goal, we would replace the monthly meetings with quarterly meetings held at each respective school. We also discussed a platform to make a difference, which we decided on to be civility, and we discussed service projects that we can complete throughout the year to become more involved in the community. I was also able to attend the fair, and I helped work at the GCPS booth, which was really cool that we were able to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I was representing both our robotics program and the school system in general. This month, GACO is finishing tech camps for the summer. Also, students from the FTC team at Northern, which is called Loading, traveled to the Juniata Valley School District in Pennsylvania to do a workshop for a rookie FTC team. And that's all I have.
Can I ask her a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you get to go to that school to teach the rookie team?
I was actually not able to go because that was today.
Oh, okay. That's understandable. Why?
Darn, a good person.
But I would have gone.
I'm sure you would have.
It's a privilege.
All right, any board member updates?
At the fair, we had a lot of participants in the school department building.
Yes.
A lot. And they displayed them very nicely, too.
And thanks to Karen Ray, her family, her friends, she has to call in a lot of people, and they showed up, and the kids came and brought excellent projects. I think it's very impressive what our kids are doing in the schools. And thank Karen, thank the board for sponsoring that program, and hopefully we can keep it going. Also, the students, the 4-H students, I went to a lot of the showings in the ring, and it's so amazing what they learn from owning animals and taking care of them and showing them. So those are great opportunities for our students.
I traveled up to Camp Hickory to see the GEICO. They hosted the kids from Frederick, St. Mary's, a couple of places, and helped them get started and get better at what they were doing. And on a side note, Mr. Troutwine, who has written a $67,000 grant to help Lego teams throughout wherever get started, traveled to my grandson's school in Vienna, West Virginia, outside of Parkersburg, to help their school get started. So they're doing some really neat things with their program.
Sharing their knowledge, which is wonderful.
It is. It's incredible.
Enjoy my summer vacation.
I noticed everyone on our travel logs this
You
month.
can cancel his check next time, Allison. He won't be getting a check in August.
Can I respond to Mr. Woods just real? Can I
Oh, that's right.
respond?
He won't get a September check.
Yeah. Mr. Woods, it's a perfect opportunity. You know, everyone in our school system works incredibly hard. But I was speaking with Mr. Troutwine the other day, and I said, he was telling me about that as well. And I said, how much do you think in your history of the last 18 years or so of the robotics program in grant funding? And he said, about $10 million.
Wow.
And so if you see Mr. Troutwine, and like I said, everybody works incredibly hard, but he is always looking for that kind of funding to enhance his program, and serves the system very well. So it's just a perfect time for me to give a shout out, because he has raised a
My
tremendous
grandson brought a friend for their camp at Yacht Blades. It's his third year that Parker's come. And Parker's 9, he looks forward more to that camp than any vacation, anything that happens. He just thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. And when you go in and watch those kids, how excited they are about learning to program and code and build and make, it really speaks volumes about the success of our school system for the future.
When I was working
work incredibly hard, but there really is only one job.
Absolutely.
I was speaking with a coworker in this building today, and that subject came up. And no matter where you go on the weekend, there's Chuck. He's slinging lemonade. He's doing demonstrations, and
I actually wish Katie had been with me when I was at our booth, because everybody wanted to see the robot go. And I don't know how to drive the robot. So we just had to say, yes, it's a lovely robot. So really had your help there to drive it.
It reminds me, I bought some lemonade.
Yes, I did too.
Not only that, I helped him put up the blackboard.
Oh, thank you.
Well, there you
That
go.
looked nice, didn't it?
Well,
All your son didn't give me a
discount.
And in total fairness, he has a great partner in doing that, not only his wife, but Arlene, you've been, I mean, you've been invaluable to what you've done with the LEGO program in our county. I mean, truthfully.
Absolutely.
This would not have happened without your assistance as well.
There is a sheet going around with some school board, school visits, and I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
I've been hearing voices over there all night. I'm going to go with Charlotte. All right, so I heard first and a second, and all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
I need to just ask.
My wife's going to wonder what's up.